There are moments in life that arrive without warning, quiet, ordinary seconds that suddenly open into something unforgettable. It happened on a cold, rainy afternoon in a busy cafe, the kind where people walk in hurriedly, dripping umbrellas and shaking off the chill. No one noticed the girl who stood just inside the door, balancing awkwardly on a prosthetic leg, her crutches trembling slightly as she scanned the room for a place to sit. Her face held the kind of tired determination that children shouldn't have to wear. She was only about 12, with hair tied back in a messy ponytail and clothes that looked worn from more than just everyday use. But what truly caught attention, not immediately, but slowly, like a realization settling in, was the loneliness in her eyes. Her name was Mara, and she had been walking for far too long, both in life and in the literal world outside that cafe. She just needed a seat. She just needed a moment to rest. And as she moved down the aisle, people looked at her but quickly looked away, pretending their tables were full, pretending not to see her struggle. That was the moment she stopped beside a man, a single father named Rowan, who sat with his two young children, Isla and Grady, both quiet, both watching Mara with curiosity instead of fear or discomfort. And with her voice small but steady, she asked the question that would change everything: "Can I sit here?" If you believe in kindness, second chances, and the power of small moments to change lives, please like, comment, share, and subscribe to Kindness Corner. Also, tell us in the comments, where in the world are you watching from? Rowan immediately felt something shift inside him. Life had not been gentle with him either. He had lost his wife 3 years earlier to a sudden illness, and since then he had been carrying the weight of raising 2 children alone while working long hours as a mechanic. He recognized exhaustion when he saw it, but Mara's exhaustion was different, heavier, deeper, as though she carried not just her school bag but an entire world on her shoulders. He motioned for her to sit, sliding his own chair slightly to make space. Mara hesitated, her cheeks flushed with embarrassment, but the kindness in Rowan's eyes steadied her. She lowered herself into the seat, her crutches resting beside her, and exhaled as though the simple act of sitting was a gift she hadn't expected. Rowan noticed her shoelaces were frayed, her fingers red from the cold, and the faint smell of rain clinging to her clothes. The kids watched her closely. Isla offered a shy smile, and Mara returned it with equal shyness, as if she wasn't used to being welcomed anywhere. As minutes passed, Rowan sensed a story behind her silence. Mara explained in a halting, careful way that she had been walking home from school when her prosthetic leg started hurting. Her mother worked double shifts and wasn't able to pick her up, and there was no bus she could afford to take. She had been born with a congenital condition that led to the amputation of her left leg when she was a toddler, and though she spoke of it plainly, there was a quiet ache in her voice that came from years of having to be braver than most adults. She didn't want help, she said, she was used to managing alone. But today, something inside her had cracked, she just needed a space to breathe. Rowan felt a sting behind his eyes. He remembered all the days he himself had pretended to be fine for the sake of his children, the days he had smiled while breaking inside. Mara was doing that now, smiling not because she wanted to, but because she didn't know any other way to survive. The cafe, warm and bright, wrapped around them like a shelter from the world outside. Rowan decided, without saying it aloud, that he would make this moment count. He bought her a warm sandwich and hot chocolate, placing them gently in front of her. Mara froze, unsure whether to accept. Rowan reassured her with a simple nod, and for the first time since she had entered the cafe, her face softened. She ate slowly, as though savoring not just the food but the rare feeling of being cared for. His children began chatting with her, asking about school, hobbies, and the stickers on her crutches. Mara answered with shy pride, each question peeled away a layer of loneliness. Rowan watched the scene unfold and felt something rise in him, a reminder of how deeply kindness could heal, not just the receiver but the giver too. As Mara finished eating, attention returned to her expression. She confessed, in a voice barely above a whisper, that she feared going home. Not because anyone would harm her, but because her mother would be overwhelmed with worry and guilt once she learned how far she had walked alone. Her mother, Leona, had been working non-stop, ever since Mara's father left them. Money was tight, medical bills never seemed to end, and Mara often pretended she wasn't hurting to avoid adding to her mother's burden. Rowan's chest ached hearing this. He realized Mara wasn't asking for pity, she was asking for understanding, for someone to see her without judgment. Rowan decided he would drive her home. Mara's eyes widened in disbelief, and for a moment she looked as though she might cry. Not from sadness, but from the overwhelming unfamiliarity of being helped. As they stepped outside into the clearing rain, Rowan held the door open for her, and something inside Mara cracked in the gentlest way. She whispered that no one outside her mother had ever done something like this for her. Her voice trembled, and Rowan placed a comforting hand on her shoulder, reminding her she wasn't alone in the world, even on the days she felt invisible. When they reached her home, a small apartment in an aging building, her mother rushed out in panic, her face drained of color. But when she saw Mara safe, standing beside Rowan and his children, her fear dissolved into gratitude. Leona thanked Rowan repeatedly, tears streaming down her face. In that moment, it was clear how fiercely she loved her daughter, how hard she was fighting to give her a life with dignity. Rowan felt a familiar sense of connection, two single parents, both trying to do their best, both carrying burdens no one else could see. Mara turned to Rowan and suddenly broke into tears. Not sad tears, but tears of release, of relief, of finally feeling seen. She told him that his simple yes, his invitation to sit, to rest, to be welcomed, meant more than he could ever understand. Rowan hugged her gently, promising that kindness would always have a place in this world, even when life felt merciless. If this story has touched your heart, please like, comment, share, and subscribe to Kindness Corner. Your support helps us spread more stories of hope and humanity. Before you go, tell us in the comments, what part of this story moved you the most. And always